Alright folks, so today I'm here to give you my thoughts on the finale of The Ones Who Live. Now I want to preface this review by saying I'm gonna be pretty critical of this episode. There's a lot of things I did enjoy, but I was overall left pretty disappointed if I'm being honest. Starting out with the positives, I thought Rick and Michonne's story overall was done really well. This show was marketed as a love story between the two, and I think they really did deliver on all of that. We got to see their teamwork fully in action in this episode, and like Jada said, together they're unstoppable. They pretty much hit every major beat they needed to with their plotline throughout this entire series, to be honest. The emotional reunion, Michonne being within the CRM and Rick having to cover for her. The fourth episode where they're at each other's throats, but in the end they come together and realize what really matters, which is their family. In episode 5, we get to see them work together and be on the same page exactly like how we used to see them. And in this episode, we get to see what it looks like when they're both at their full potential together. Their story is pretty much exactly what I wanted to see from this series. And finally, we got to see exactly what we wanted to see with Rick and Michonne reuniting with their children. You know, I could say there should have been other people there. Why are they in the middle of the field? Who's watching them? You know, it's a little weird, but the scene was just so emotional, and it did exactly what it needed to do. And I'm not ashamed, I'll admit it, I shed a couple tears when RJ and Judith came running over that hill. So in terms of the love story between these two, the show was marketed as, I thought they absolutely nailed all of that. And I am so thankful neither of them died, oh my god. But in terms of this specific episode, you know, this was them going into action. You know, all the emotional beats, besides them reuniting with their kids, of course, were done in episode 4 and 5. And I think that really worked, you know. It left more time for the action, but this is where I'm gonna start getting a little more critical. I am very disappointed with the CRM in this episode and their ending. A lot of that comes from, I didn't think for a second this would be the ending of the CRM. I was under the impression they would be the endgame for the Walking Dead franchise, but that is not the case. Now, I have so many feelings on this episode. I've already watched it twice, and it's really hard to kind of articulate exactly how I'm feeling about it. One of the things I'm drawn to the most in the Walking Dead universe is the lore of it. You know, the world itself is a living, breathing character. It changes throughout the series as it's influenced by our main characters. So the CRM being a universal boogeyman connecting all these shows together, I think was really working. They were intimidating, they were so widespread. I thought they did really well making it seem like the CRM was unstoppable. In terms of they're just too big to be defeated in any natural means. No big explosion, no war could stop what they have built and how widespread it is. So I thought they were gonna approach it over the course of, you know, the next few years, over these spin-offs, and build it together, and have Rick and Michonne be the anchor to, you know, slowly change the CRM into something that is sustainable and they can, ally. Pretty much what they did do with the Commonwealth in the comics. Instead of a huge, big battle, they had the Commonwealth more so integrate with our group. But that's not where they're going. The CRM as we know it, as the boogeyman of the wasteland, is pretty much defeated. A lot of it just feels too easy. A lot of my issues also comes from the fact that we basically saw what we saw in this episode in the World Beyond finale. They already saved Portland. They already blew up the chlorine gas. You know, it's like Chekhov's chlorine gas at this point. I was watching it with my girlfriend, and I'm just saying, they already did this in World Beyond, Portland is going down this episode. I was so hyped. But no, that is not the case. This city just won't go down. Which is funny, because we've only ever seen it in, one shot of the show. I don't know, I just thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, I think the whole briefing and Cascadia base plotline, I was really disappointed and ended up just echoing the end of World Beyond. And speaking of World Beyond, I gotta say, when it was airing, I thought it was a decent start to the CRM arc. It wasn't anything groundbreaking, but by far the most interesting aspects of that show were the information drops in the CRM. So I thought it was a pretty decent start. Not for a second did I think that was the story. But in terms of the CRM itself, we learned mostly everything in World Beyond. we already learned why they're taking out all these colonies, why they're genociding all these places. So when Beal is staring into the camera saying, everything from this moment is gonna change, and it turns out to just kind of be like a World Beyond recap a little bit, it left me a little disappointed. The echelon briefing was a little disappointing. What is intriguing, however, is the CRM's projections show humanity only has 14 years left. Now that is interesting to me, but it also leaves me thinking, I think the CRM would be a great, ongoing antagonist for that sort of plotline. A group marching across the wasteland, wiping out communities left and right because, the big kaboom is coming. I think that would be really interesting, but by the end of this episode, obviously the CRM is defeated, as we know it. It seems like all 3,000 or whatever of those red-striped soldiers were all at Cascadia Base when Rick and Michonne blew it up in, one fell swoop. So the rotten core of the CRM is just done. And possibly my biggest issue with this episode is Major General Beal's death. Now, you guys know I've been talking in the last 4 reviews about how I felt they were underutilizing him. And a lot of you guys in the comments were saying, it's fine, they're going to use Beal in future projects, this is about Rick and Michonne. And I took a step back, I'm like, you guys are right, that does make sense. Nope. There goes Beal. I will say I do like the moment Beal realizes what's about to happen. I think it was a little on the nose to have the clip play from the first episode of him saying he's gonna look into Rick's eyes. But him realizing what's about to happen just by looking Rick in the eyes I thought that was really awesome. But man, I cannot believe how underutilized Terry O'Quinn was. John Locke is my favorite Lost character, so when I found out he was in The Walking Dead, I was losing my mind. But wow, was Beal disappointing. I do like the lore drop that he sacrificed Pittsburgh, I believe. But in terms of his potential and just having Terry O'Quinn in The Walking Dead, I'm disappointed. I felt like in this series they did a really great job of introducing these side characters. So it was pretty sad to see most of them die. I don't know about you guys, but I was really getting invested into Pearl Thorne and why she 180'd so hard from the echelon briefing. What did she hear? But when we see it, it still doesn't make sense. It just doesn't really sit right with me that Rick is the only person out of 3,000 whatever soldiers to not be on board with the CRM's plans. I just can't imagine 3,000 people would hear, hey, we're gonna genocide pretty much everyone, but at least our military will still be alive. I don't know, guys, the whole ending of the CRM just isn't quite sitting right with me. And I feel like I have to be honest about it, because if I'm not honest about my opinions, then why are we here, right? I think a big issue is kind of the sense of direction of this franchise is now a little bit lost on me. One of the most intriguing things about these spin-offs was the CRM connections, in my opinion. I was really intrigued with what did the Commonwealth know about the CRM, but it seems like that's kind of going to get glossed over as well as Rick and Michonne fly down in that field. They're going to know about the CRM now. It does feel like the ending for Rick and Michonne's characters, which I like I said, I do think that really works. But a part of me, it'll always be disappointed that we're not going to really see Rick and Michonne's reaction to the Commonwealth and like how far our crews come in the time they've been gone. But who knows? I mean, they could use them for cameos in the future and, plot point. I think that'll keep things exciting, definitely. But in terms of a direction for this franchise, the only thing we really have to go on is 14 years from now in the timeline, everything is projected to die, maybe sooner. What are they doing about that? I don't know. I think also them bringing the information to the city, but we only see it as a voiceover, that felt very rushed. We hear about them bringing the information about the CRM to the city, but we don't actually get to see it. Just straight up exposition saying the leaders of Philadelphia voted to have oversight of the CRM, so that won't be an issue anymore. All the bad apples are gone. And they're gonna start shipping supplies out to a bunch of other places. And I'm just thinking, that 14-year projection was probably with killing, everybody. It's probably gonna be, less than 10 years before everyone's dead, if this is the plotline they are going with for the future of the franchise. Which, if it is, that does kind of get me a little bit more excited for Dead City Season 2, because that's a little bit further in the timeline. That could be getting closer to, the end, But I don't know, I'm disappointed with the CRM as villains in this franchise. They were a group that spanned over 4 different shows. We got little drips and teases throughout all these series. They felt big. They made a whole nother spin-off to introduce them, but in reality, that was the story. Do I think these could have worked better as movies? I don't know. If anything, I feel like the stories would have just been told a little bit different, but overall would have been the same. But we would have been spoon-fed them for over the next 6 years. I don't know, I guess time will tell whether that would have been a better option or not. I'm happy with them doing a TV show. They closed out Rick and Michonne's arc together really well, but it was the CRM that I think they fumbled a little bit. And also, now that I'm thinking about it, there was no Gabriel in this episode. What was that about with him in the first scene of last episode with the helicopters flying over? I said in my last review, I'm glad they were just using Gabriel as cameos, but now I'm thinking they might do a Gabriel spinoff. Overall, I did really enjoy The Ones Who Live, but this finale, I think, kind of retroactively made a few things with the CRM that I did enjoy in the previous episodes a little more disappointing. They fully delivered on Rick and Michonne's story, I'll give them that 100%, but overall, coming out of this episode, my hype going forward in the franchise, it feels a little bit diminished not having something as big as the CRM poking around in every show. So this episode specifically, I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. That may seem a little high because of how much I complain, but like I said, they did market this show first and foremost as a love story between Rick and Michonne. And in my opinion, they did nail mostly all the aspects of their relationship. The cinematography was amazing as usual in this episode. And I do like a lot of the concepts it presented. But I'll admit, the reason why I have it at a 7 mostly comes from just how emotional that ending scene with them reuniting really was. It hit me in the feels. That's what we've been waiting for so long. But after sitting with the episode overnight, that seems to be mostly everything that I did enjoy. Before I wrap up, I did want to mention the dossier thing. I was surprised how quick she found out. And I liked Michonne doing parkour to get in and sneaking through. That was cool. But where she found it, that cat statue, I could be wrong, but I swear that was from season 7, the junkyard, was it not? Or at least maybe a recreation of it. That stuck out to me. I don't know, I just thought of that just now, so I just want to throw it in here. But yeah, folks, those are my thoughts on the series finale of The Ones Who Live. Overall, disappointed with the lore implications of the series. But overall, I do feel satisfied with Rick and Michonne, and I'm sure there'll be cameos in the future in other spin-offs, which I think will be cool. But yeah, the sense of direction, I think, is a little bit killed with taking out the CRM this quick. Also, just another thing I was thinking of while editing this, I could have sworn they said we were going to get information on what the PPP card meant. I think it was even written on a whiteboard in the trailer, so that's pretty sad that they didn't really cover that. But those are my thoughts. Please let me know yours in the comments. I'm expecting people to think I'm a little bit too critical on this episode, which is fine. But like I said, I need to be honest about my feelings here, or else why are we here? But yeah, folks, that is it for this review. I'm gonna have a video on the Proctors from Fear the Walking Dead coming out on Wednesday, so look forward to that. And if you agree with some of the things I said here in this review, be sure to hit that like button and drop a sub if you're feeling generous. See you later, folks.